So I have a low profile power port, which means that like this sucker does not stick out from my skin. Different ports are different. Some people have them like sticking out really far. It's a power port because I can get a CT and they can push the dye in through it that I need. Not all caths are, or not all ports are like this. So I like the one I have. It's very common. The bad thing is, because it's low profile, it's hard to hit. I've never had a nurse anywhere be able to start my port. They cannot access it. It's very frustrating because it's all me. The surgeon who put it in can do it. His name is Wieland. It's not, Eric did not put this thing in. He put in crab lines. So now I'm gonna access it. So I would show you on my, I'm gonna lean forward a little bit. You can see that dot in the middle. That dot is from where I stick the needle in every single time. I'm gonna go in through that dot. But my skin is gonna move around the site. So I'm gonna hold it taut with a finger on each side and try not to get this hand against my skin. And I'm gonna try to center it. So in between my two fingers, I have my port. It's not gonna move. I wanna make sure it doesn't move when I go in. And I want that dot right in the middle. And then I'm just gonna stick my needle in, if I can. All right. You'll be able to feel if you probably got it in the right place. You have to test if you got it in the right place. I cannot tell you the amount of times where I've gotten it on the side or like gotten it at a weird angle and it does not hit the site, because essentially you're hitting, you know, this little circle, and right in the middle is where you can perforate the needle, and behind that is where it can access that blood vessel. But it's really easy to not hit that point. So you're gonna do a blood drawback to make sure that you get the right site. So you just pull out on the plunger, and if you got it right, which I did, you're gonna have blood in that line. Mine's not coming out very well because I have blood clot, clearly, which is not a big deal at this point. You're gonna get them. This is also sterile. I'm gonna flush that lane again, see if I can get pull back, draw back. See, now it came really easily because I just flushed it. I always do it upside down like this, so that if there are any residual air bubbles in this, they're gonna be at the top, and I don't push all the way, because if there's an air bubble, I want it to stay in here, not in my body. But I'm still exposed. The other thing is, now that it's in, I can turn it. I can have it over here. I can have it over here. I can move it around. Sometimes the flow works better in a certain way. So maybe the flow works better like this way, and I need to have it sideways. Sometimes it's going to be straight down. Sometimes it's going to be this way. I don't know going into it how the flow is going to be. So sometimes you just have to twist it a little bit and turn it with your saline until you get the right spot. All right, so now I'm gonna cover it. And I can't even stop my phone, so hopefully this thing won't go on too long. So you've got a couple of different types of gauze in here. I have 4 different types of gauze. I've got this one, which is like, I don't know, not absorbent. And just a plain one, and a big one, and this is my favorite one. I'm gonna put it right on top and just kind of press it, and then I'm gonna try to not move while I get my Tegaderm on. A lot of times they'll go horizontal. I personally like to go up and down. I'm gonna try to stretch my skin out a little bit and get it on there. And then I'm gonna take my hand and now that it's covered, I can. All right, so I just got this on. I'm not immediately ripping the paper off. I'm gonna rub those corners because I want it to really stick. I'm gonna push down really hard at the bottom and kind of rub because I want it to stick. The corners are the areas that are probably gonna come up. If you have a nurse that does this, she may label it. I'm gonna take your 2 fingers and you're kind of gonna pinch around the line. You're gonna pinch it so that the Tegaderm is really stuck to the line and that there's nothing gonna come up. Because remember, the bacteria, you get bacteria on your line, down here, it's gonna travel up and it will go under the tape and then it'll get in your line and then it will go into your heart and then you will get sepsis. So at this point, I am ready to connect my fluids. All right, so I just got my fluids out of the microwave. I know the bottom is probably gross because that was the side that was down. So I'm gonna tap it a couple times gently because if I have air bubbles that are settled, I want them at the top. And then in my bathroom, I have command hooks all over the place. Just the biggest, I mean the highest strength command hooks. You just stick them on a wall. That one's been on there for 5 years and it's still on there. So I use a gravity line when I'm at home, which means it just comes out on its own. There's no pump. Here's my tubing. I want to make sure this baby's closed before I access. I am very careful not to let this line touch the stuff in my bathroom. I don't want it to touch the floor. I don't want any part of it to touch the floor. I don't want it to touch the walls. I don't want it to touch anything. You don't have to access in your bathroom. I need a mirror still to access. So I'm gonna take this off. Just like in the hospital, there's this little blue thing at the bottom. I'm gonna take that off. But there's like a protective layer that I have to puncture. And this thing is sharp, okay? If I don't get this right, I will very easily poke through the side. And I have had to throw out the tubing and the line for I can't tell you how many times because of this stage right here where I try to stick this in and I end up perforating the side. And if you perforate, you can't save it because outside air is exposed. You don't want the outside air in your system and you just exposed your heart directly to bacteria. So then we're gonna get all the air out of our line. So then I'm gonna open this up. And this little circle here, that controls how fast the fluids are gonna come out. So I'll show you in a minute, but it's a dial. I want it on open. Some people call this prime. This is called priming your line, what I'm doing right now. So you would have squeezed this a couple times to get a little bit of fluid in the bottom. And I'm gonna look through my line and I flick it. And then I take this and I knock it against the wall to get all the air bubbles out. And then I visually examine my line and I see, are there air bubbles? Okay, I'm gonna knock it or flick it. You look at any space where they could hide, I'm gonna flick that very gently. And then I'm gonna just turn this down to like 60. So it's still kind of coming out, but like real slow. And then, I don't know what's on there now. It's no longer clean. I'm going to take an alcohol prep. Standard is 10 seconds. 10 seconds of going and rubbing back and forth. 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it on the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boop. And then I'm going to connect the lines. And then I am going to clamp this one shut, closest to my body. I'll tell you why in a minute.